was a COVID thing where we were
Yes, but
screening
he
people at the
still
tent.
think he still have the view. He still have the view that there was a tent.
Yeah.
He still believe that there was a tent somewhere there, right?
Wow.
That's why he went there thinking that there was a tent, and he
Sad.
wanted to go and see it. Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Go on, Scott.
Hey, Scott, how you doing, man?
There, man. Take it easy. Big up on yourself.
Yeah, man, give thanks. It's been a minute, you know.
I'm gonna see how does the funeral, chops.
Boy, you know, well, it was the same thing that came up the same time. So while Dad's funeral was happening, the funeral for Dad happened the same time when they had the visitor, the opposition leader. So it was kind of a cross between two, and they were persons. You have
Almost the
the
whole cabinet came yesterday. I was so surprised. Almost the entire cabinet came yesterday.
Second,
I said almost the entire cabinet came yesterday. I
I
was so
know, man. Yeah, man.
surprised.
Yeah, man. Daz was it was expected, you know, and other persons from
Even
my
Julia what we name? Julian Robinson
oh yeah, oh
and
yeah,
Fitz Jackson and Mayor of Kingston.
yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Dawes was a good man, you know. Was a good man. It was really surprising. I just remember it was probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior to that we had a opening in in Central St. James. So I was right there with him.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate. You see, what happened, you know, guys, is that if you notice something, we know. You notice you don't hear any argument or any conversation from Mark Golding or his team regarding
You
Western
told yesterday.
Children's Hospital. You realize that, right?
Yeah, there's no argument. There's no.
Yeah,
All right.
but
So you realize that the conversation is about Cornwall Regional.
Yeah, yeah.
And Cornwall Regional was never the hospital that they visited.
Yeah.
They did not tour Cornwall Regional. So ask yourself the question. There are two hospitals on the compound. You tour Western Children. You gave a very good review based on the interaction I had. You were very pleased. Members of your team, they were equally very pleased. Nothing to complain about. It was the leader of the opposition's first time visiting Western Children. Senator Janice Allen, a member of his team, it was her second time visiting Western Children. There were other members, councillors, constituency caretakers with him. It was his first time. He had a lot of questions. He asked a lot of questions. Some questions I could not answer. There were some questions that was way above my pay grade. There were some questions that had political implications. I refused to answer those. I answered the questions I could answer. And based on that interaction, I left there believing that Mark Golding had a very good visit with his team. They expressed that to me. They said that to me. So I don't even need to second guess that. They said it. That they had a good visit, was good. Unfortunately, there was a member of his team that insisted that they wanted to go to Cornwall. I said, I don't have the clearance to give you the go-ahead to go to Cornwall. That's not my responsibility. That request should have come the same time you were asking for clearance to come to Western Children. If you had done it that way, then I could have given you the go-ahead. At this point, I cannot. But unfortunately, again, there is a member of the team who said that he was told that there was a tent at Cornwall, that persons are outside on that tent, lying down, trying to get care. I said, sir, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyhow, they made their way to Cornwall, I stopped them. Along with the chief security, I stopped them. I said, gentlemen, do not embarrass yourself. Do not embarrass the leader of the opposition. Cease and desist from going into Cornwall. Do not go into Cornwall Regional without having the proper clearance to do so. There are persons that must be notified, and there are persons that must make preparation to welcome the leader of the opposition. The person at the time who was extremely vocal refused to accept my suggestion and continue to proceed to Cornwall. Right? The RD came, RD said, look, at this stage of the game, I can't give you permission to go in there because that permission need to be coordinated with the CEO, chief medical officers, other senior members of staff who are on duty at the time. Those persons would have to be brought into the conversation in order to give clearance for you and your team to go into the hospital. However, if you by yourself want to go, you can. I don't know if they're going to allow you because there are security at the gate. However, when he marched off to go to the gate to go into Cornwall, three quarters of his entourage went with him, except for 2 or 3 who they stayed back. Because when I asked them, they said, well, we are not a part of that. They disassociated themselves from the team. They disassociated themselves from the team that went to force themselves into Cornwall Regional. And when I say force themselves in, I mean, just think about it, guys. Think about an accident and emergency area of a hospital where persons are in there probably in pain, probably traumatized, probably, and they, you don't know what's happening in an accident and emergency area. That's a very high risk area. Why would you think it's a good idea for you to walk into that area with your entourage without the proper protocol, without the senior medical people within the institution providing you with direction as to where to go, who to talk to, and giving you a proper organized tour of the facility? Why do you think that you have the right to walk up into the hospital the way you did? Right? And think it is cool. And
No,
then come to the public in Jamaica to make a big deal about what you observed. You observed something that you had no business. You were in breach of protocol. And the minister need to demand a report as to what could have caused you to walk up into Cornwall Regional with your entourage without following proper protocol. That is what you must be talking about. That is the conversation that we must be having. On what basis did Mark Jefferson Golding think it was appropriate to barge up in Cornwall Regional Hospital without following proper protocol, even after he was told that he cannot go in there unless the leadership at the hospital is notified? Why would he think it was necessary for him to barge up in there the way he did? And he needs to answer to those questions.
Upon our risk behavior. To be in a gown, whether you need to have on a face mask, areas that you need to stay clear of. You can just, not because you're leader of the opposition, not even the Prime Minister of Jamaica has that power to just run up into a hospital and walk about at free will. Things doesn't work like that. There's rule, there's procedure, and that is why we have management of these organizations. How can you Absolve yourself of management and just go do what you feel like. Oh, it's a surprise moment. See, we found. No. Rude. Very unbecoming. Exactly, Petal. Careless. Careless behavior.
That was irresponsible, and it was really, and I warned them. I told the gentleman, I said, do not compromise the leader of the opposition. The gentleman deserved to be given a tour of the facility in a professional way, right? You can't just barge into a place like that. That's not how you do business. That's not some little careless boy kind of move. And that was the sort of behavior that was displayed at the time. And that is what compromised what was a very good morning up until then. A very good tour of Western children, despite what some of these idiots out there running around with. It was an extremely good tour. The members of the team, they were very pleased until Andre Horton decide that he wants to go into Cornwall Regional because he heard of tents being there and persons were outside under a tent seeking care. That's what he told me. That's what he said. And I said, what tent are you talking about? I said, look, if you need access to Cornwall Regional, whether you want to go on the construction side of Cornwall Regional or you want to go on the hospital side of Cornwall Regional, that is outside of my purview. I cannot give you clearance to go there. That has to be sought at the highest level because there are persons who must be notified if you are going in there. And you insist, you walk out of the place and walk from Western Children all the way over to Cornwall. And you had to stay under a tree because I had to physically walk over there and say, don't do that. Don't embarrass the leader of the opposition. Don't embarrass the leader of the opposition. If you want him to go into Cornwall Regional, just do the right thing. He has a right to go in there. He holds a position in the country that he has a right to go and see what's happening in the hospital. That's fine. But don't do it in a haphazard way where you now expose him to hostility, possibly from the security, right? Unfortunately, the security really and truly did not put up any resistance. But of course, this guy see this man coming with 8 or 10 persons behind him. I'm assuming he's not even going to check. He just walked in there. The chief of security for the hospital has to be scrambling behind Golding to get some of the people out. Get out, get out, get out, get out. At one point, they had to walk over there and say, man, I don't need to get out of here, man. Get out of here. So when you hear them busy out on social media talking, that is the conversation they must have. That is the conversation they must have. And that is what they need to answer to. The childish and unprofessional behavior that they display after leaving Western Children yesterday. That is what they must talk about.
But Chopper, even after all of that though, there isn't even a talking point for them because what they would have seen, right? And also the Western Children would have had some sentimental attachment to the People's National Party since
But you would have thought that they would have capitalized on that and come out and say, boy, we are pleased with what we saw. And
no,
this was an
no.
initiative by Portia Simpson Miller. Right? I had to remind Mr. Golding that the hospital was negotiated under the leadership of Portia Simpson Miller. I reminded him of that. So I gave credit where credit is due.
But must we have to? But Chopper,
And I thought that they would have come out now and said, look, we're going to own this because this is ours. Instead, you go with your
You think
skullduggery.
we never stop talk about it? Oh, it's them and not for them. Come here, so them lose
No.
it.
We have to give credit where credit is due. It was negotiated under when Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller was Prime Minister. Right? I am saying that if you come to the facility, Philippian, and you are pleased with what you saw, the good politics would be to own it. To say, hey, this was done under my administration. We did this. We wanted this. And talk about that. Instead, because you're so fixated on negative press and skullduggery, you refuse to talk about a beautiful morning that we had at Cornwall, at our Western Children. And instead, you go searching because you cannot tell anybody that your visit at Western Children was not good. You cannot tell anybody. Why? Because I was right there. I was right there. And I made sure that they were welcome and treated very well. Right? But they could not report on that. So they choose to now go digging because all they can survive on is negative press. Nothing else. You couldn't end that day with a visit at Cornwall, a visit at Western Children, without going over to Cornwall, unannounced, impromptu, to dig for dirt. What kind of responsible opposition leader does that? And I don't want to blame him totally. You know why? And probably I should, because she should be mature enough to know that when Andre Hart is insisting for him to go inside, he should be the leader and say, no, I'm not going in there until proper authorization is sought. The original director told him that I cannot give you permission to go in there in an official capacity because that would have to be vetted by the chief medical officer, well, not the chief medical officer, the CMO, the CMO, yeah, for Cornwall, and also the CEO. So if these persons were not notified, I cannot give you the go ahead. However, if you want to go in your own capacity, one or two of you can walk over there, and if the security will allow you, then you can go. Instead, you walk on over there with a whole barrage of people walking into an emergency area. You're not retrofitted with nothing. You could walk from outside with whatever you want, bring it in there, and nobody. You don't do that. You don't put people at risk or put yourself at risk in that environment. You don't know what you're walking into. There was no senior medical person there to give you an official tour as the leader of the opposition deserve. Instead, you allow people within his team who really and truly have absolutely no idea on how to conduct themselves in a professional way based on the title at the whole. You would expect them to display that. Right? So that is a conversation that they need to have. If they really want to have a conversation, let's talk about that. They have not said anything about that. But I guarantee you that that will come out. Because I will make sure it comes out. I rest my case. Over to you, Philippian and Winner and the team. Thank you for listening to my rant.
I want to ask a question about the children's hospital. Whose money is being spent? Is it our money or China's money?
Both.
Both.
Yes.
And before, and when Portia had signed for it, he said, what was the deal back then?
It's a gift to Jamaica.
So we would not have paid any money.
You have to spend because there's modifications and there are things that you have to add. There are changes that you have to absorb. There are things that you have to absorb. So while the bulk of it might come from China, you still have to spend a significant sum in order to get it to where you want it to go. So right now it is both Jamaica and the Chinese that spend on it.
Oh, okay. So she never we never lose that deal between China offering
No,
it.
no.
Okay.
That's why the Prime Minister had to expedite a lot of the projects that we had, that the PNP had in the quote unquote pipeline. The JLP had to expedite them. Some of them, if we did not use them up quickly, we would have lost them. And that is why we had to break ground and get on with the business of implementing some of these things, because they were just sitting there and nothing was happening.
Okay.
Thank you for
Everybody
clearing
silent.
that
What's
clear
going on?
up, chaps.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
So thank you for clearing that up. I remember because we were having that same discussion this evening. As a matter of fact, it was unfortunate that I had to leave because while the discussion was made on the contrary, I decided, look, because I practice something. If I don't know the facts, I go look for it. Because it don't make no sense me talk and I say, no, but that's so because I feel so. So it's best I go and look. And I actually went and found out, by the way, Philippians, the truth that there's two ways, because I don't remember what his name was. I was saying that the PNP hadn't signed off on any agreement, and it's not really so. But the PNP also is being really untrue in saying they are the ones that started negotiation with China. That is not so. Negotiations with China started in 2009. In 2009,
It was Mike Henry who really started that discussion. Yes.
thank you. I went and looked for it. I
Yes. Mike Henry
found
was the
the
one who approached the
information.
Chinese. Yes.
You understand? So it was actually started in 2009. Negotiations started. By the time the first set of agreements were signed in 2010, and then after the election, 2013, Portia signed those 4 agreements. They were that Portia signed, that Portia Simpson signed. And so it's not true to say that Portia start negotiation with China. That is not true. But it is not really correct to say that Portia administration never signed any agreement with them. They
I
actually did.
learned that today too,
Mark,
winner.
where you found that
That was the conversation that I was hearing, and that's the reason why I went to look.
Where you found it? Where you found it?
I found it on. It was all the documents I found was on JIS releases. Hold on, don't move. Mr. Tell you.
Send it to winner. If you are him as friend, you can send him the information.
Because I need to make a video on that. Because
Yes.
it's not live.
We need to make the video upon it winner for true, yeah.
Because all along I've been giving Mrs. Simpson Miller the credit, right? So that's what PMP does. They steal the idea and they will never give the credit for it. Or something. Because I was on Twitter and I see a grown man. The tweet was from probably 2020, giving credit for the fiscal responsibility ACCA rules to Peter Phillips, and I'm like, I didn't comment on it. As I was going through their profile, I didn't comment on it. I'm like, yo, somebody who should have known better didn't do better. And I think they made the same error again sometime late last year and had to correct them.
So you want to tell me, say the man them get permission to tour one facility and try to force themselves in the next one?
Yeah.
What kind of
But
behavior them there?
why didn't they tour Cornwall Regional Hospital? The one that is under construction. And I think that was deliberate, That was deliberate. Why? Because they want the narrative to continue in people's heads saying there was cost overrun when there is none. That $21 billion was already spent when that is a lie. Yeah? A little bit over $6 billion have been spent so far. The projection is to spend $21 billion based on the finishing structure, all of the equipments that are supposed to go in there, everything to make it a fully functional hospital will amount to $21 billion. But they want to make it seem as if $21 billion is going to be spent on the building alone, and then Jamaica will have to find additional money to put in furnitures, put in equipment, and all the other things, amenities to make a hospital functional, which is a wrong and incorrect narrative. It is a lie. But that's what those PNP does. And I see tonight, Mark Golding and Julian Robinson plan to give up their British citizenship, and I'm like, it's a little bit too late for Mark Golding. And in any case, he could always get back his British citizenship. And even when he was telling the congregation that, listen, I'm going to give it up, he was still saying that I don't believe I should give it up, because the argument should be that we should discuss this, because the diaspora this and the diaspora that, without fully coming to conviction of what the people of Jamaica wants. But he's going to do it because he wants power, right?
So why am I trying to drive the diaspora in that? The diaspora live down.
Exactly.
So am I trying to say, who does that say nobody nothing there?
No, he not believe saying supposed to give up. And he said there was a poll done. I want to know which poll and what did the poll say. Who carried out that poll? So we like we see the numbers. Make sure somebody blew that poll when in a cuss out say a fake poll. Not King Peter, it's not necessarily Mr. Vegas, It has been a Jamaican thing where we have always said you cannot have conflict of interest.
Not the
Prime Minister and being also the citizen of another country. When you are making decision on our behalf, whether that negotiation be between your country or some other country that they have, how will we know that these decisions are in our best interest? When you don't have any skin in the game. Can't be. Diaspora people, if you all want to have a say in the country and how the country is supposed to be run, if you want to hold a position in parliament, you need to come home. And you need to give up your ties to your other country so that when you make decisions, the decisions are best for the country, because you're going to be living in the country based on the decisions that are being made.
But we now. When you go up, so go vote.
We have been told that there will
Once the election come up in a winner.
Oh, man, I want you now get to vote. You guys give up in ability to vote. Should I ask him, has he ever voted over there before? Or which party in support over there?
You know, said something upset me. Why Dr. Tufton take up himself to the big Sunday and gone upon one life with Rattigan, Dogbed, and Wayne Lonesome and the rest of them? Why? Why? The people were planning to demolish the country. Why?
Guys, you have to mash down the lies. Listen, a lot of persons follow those diaspora gang. A lot of persons follow them and follow their narrative and listen to their thing. If you can go into that platform and start to speak facts, there is no way that you can hide from the truth.
So where I watch that now? It's live now, Petal?
Live on YouTube.
No?
Live on YouTube. Wayne Loans, Jeffrey Tavares, YouTube. Why? With this girl I come and ask about them blame Dr. Tufton. The person who call him Dr. Death. Right through and disrespect him.
Which part you mean? In a comment?
You don't know me mad.
In the comment you mean?
What you mean? Him up on live with them.
And the girl I call him Dr. Death?
Oh no, not no. I thought she call him period. On our program at night time.
And she's on the platform on the panel with him?
Yes.
Okay.
Him go up on Labour right platform, go debunk their lies. What him supposed to do? Who him itch up over there with them there for? Here's a question. You know why you interrupt, Mr. Rattigan? Sure. Our chopper there.
And
Me I go over there go listen to it. Me dep on it right now. Me I go over there go listen to it because me see all of them over there with a straight face looking like them get one go sheep for them now. And that them over there do, I tough up their face with their false information and the false narrative. All of them sitting over there on them bums in the United States are over there at ridicule and chastising and trying to set Jamaica on fire. Right? The them own purpose or whatever agenda they have. And me say they over there Chopper name in the chat too. Tell us about Chopper John.
Talk about Paul and challenge Andrew and them here say my leading a poll and who say I'm gonna show them support behind him. You see all them bullshit there? Sure.
Petal, what's going on?
What you say, Petal, about Paul? Petal, what you say
We're
about
gonna bring up and tell him same here, same did I lead Andrew in a poll and
the foolishness? Me hate the one,
them gonna show them support behind him.
the one when him
Just pissed
loan
off right
some.
now.
Me hate him. I
Papa,
said him a try set him up.
and end up each up on platform with dirty rat mango.
Where's the
Don't-
one? Talk to me.
Mango
Where's
dey pan it?
the one?
Don't loan some. You don't know what going over Jeffrey
A
Tavares
lie.
YouTube.
What you say, rotten mango dey pan it?
Rat mango.
Yo,
dirty
me
rat
can't
mango.
bother. Me-
Don't
Hold
loan
on,
some.
hold on. What happened?
Dr. Tufton is on a platform, Jeffrey Tavares, YouTube, the people who stage a demonstration against the government of Jamaica in a New York, Florida, DC, disrespect the country, and Dr. Tufton itch up on live with them? Anything can go, sir?